The third GOP debate now done. Who did well? Who improved their position? Who might be on the ropes? Here are our winners and losers. We sort of previewed this a little bit earlier on. So Brett, why don't you expand on what you had started to say? Who do you think was the biggest winner? Who do you think was the biggest loser?
Biggest winner for me is Nikki Haley. She showed composure. She was attacked, which is flattery on the stage. She was attacked by Vivek Ramaswamy, who called her Dick Cheney in heels. And then she used those heels to slash him in the throat. Vivek came off as too abrasive. I'd call him the loser in all of it. Well, I would call Tim Scott the loser, but it was so sad. Then like every time he finished giving his speech, the moderator's like, okay, thank God he's done talking. What do you think, Chris Christie? But really, I think the loser for me is Vivek Ramaswamy. He was abrasive, like mean-spirited, long-winded, and attacked Nikki Haley's daughter, which Nikki Haley, for how she parented her own daughter, which is generally off limits, and Nikki stood her ground and got him back. And she sounded like, she had gravitas and more experience than all the rest of them in foreign policy, which was the main arena discussed for the most time on air out of any other issue. So I think winner, Nikki Haley; loser, Vivek Ramaswamy.
I think, Brett, you put it, the reasons behind, because I agree with you, as we said earlier about Nikki Haley, similarly, but because when I'm watching these debates and I'm putting on my hat of if I'm supporting any of these folks, who is convincing me the most, and again, that was for me, Nikki Haley. But again, her policies suck. The things that she's perpetuating and saying that she's gonna do and the way that she's approaching all these things, they suck. But she has a grasp on the topics. She has been there to a degree, knows how, worked with an executive with the president, as disastrous as that was. She's done it at least. So there's that level of experience, at least when it comes to getting the job done, I guess. So as far as the losers go, I did have a bit of a shift. It's easy as Tim Scott, but was not the obvious answer here, because he even had an almost please clap moment. It's like, oh, he was joking with it. It was actually the best moment he had, sadly. Was, oh, you guys are clapping before I even got a chance to say anything. It's going to be great. That actually was funny because he sucks. But so the actual one, and this kind of came to mind now because of the way people are responding to him. It's Chris Christie. Not because he doesn't sound like he knows what he's talking about. Not because he didn't give answers that actually somewhat address the question most times, but because when he says those things and then he connects it to how Donald Trump is a mess, didn't follow through on promises, is destroying the party, and on top of that, the country. You know who doesn't want to hear that? Republicans don't want to hear that. Many Republicans hate Donald Trump, but they don't want to hear that he's the worst and bashing him when they know that he's probably going to be their nominee if he avoids jail. So he loses on that front because he's going after the kingmaker of the Republican Party, the king itself, actually, of the Republican Party. And you will always lose when you go after Donald Trump trying to talk to other Republicans. It just doesn't work out that way. There's been senators, there's been representatives, a few more of them, that have tried to go after Donald Trump. None of them are in office. None of them. That's what happens. Even up to Liz Cheney, they're not in office because you can't go against Donald Trump. As right as it is to do that, as a Republican, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I kind of feel similar. Like if there was any reason in the universe, then I would say that Chris Christie should be the winner, but that's just not a possibility. He can't win coming out of this because of where he's running. So I'm gonna say I guess disagree a little bit. I'm probably gonna classify maybe Ramaswamy as my winner. Not that he's gonna take out Trump. I don't think anyone believes that. He doesn't believe that. But if his goal is either to be the second place guy, to continue to stay in the conversation, or maybe to end up in, Trump's cabinet or something like that, then I think he probably accomplished those goals a little bit. He talked fast. He probably seemed intelligent to people who don't know or care much about substance. So I think that's probably a big win for him. So I guess I would classify him as the winner. Ron DeSantis, I'm gonna say, I guess, was the big loser. It would be too easy to say Tim Scott. I don't think Tim Scott will be in the next debate. They were clearly giving him less time for his answers, and even that was too much time. He wasn't running for president. He was running for pastor. It was weird. But I'm going to say Ron DeSantis because his losing is maybe it's more significant because he at least thought that he had a chance of winning this thing. He didn't really do anything that to me is going to severely hurt him. I don't think there were any major gaffes. They drilled so many lines into him that he repeated multiple times, trying to control his message. But he can't just not have gaffes at this point. He needs a knockout blow against Donald Trump, and he didn't even try for one, let alone land one. And so just because he needed to shake up the status quo and he wasn't even really trying to do that, I'm going to classify Ron DeSantis as my big loser.